Well, they said it.
And we're back! And now you're going to want to let the bars cool for a few hours until they are room temperature. At which point they're basically ready. Be careful separating the pastry from the aluminum foil. If you just try to rip it off, you can tear the pastry. So be gentle and use a knife or something if you have to separate the foil. If you want to freeze the pastry, it's better if you freeze the whole batch at once. Just make sure to wrap it up tightly in plastic wrap first. And if you freeze them, make sure you let them thaw out a little bit before you serve, although they are pretty awesome at a cold temperature in my opinion. You can also put them in the fridge and they'll keep for a few days. Whenever you want to serve them, cut them up into whatever shapes you want. Squares are pretty easy. And the last step is, just before you serve them, get some more of your powdered sugar and dust the tops of it real good. Be generous with the powdered sugar. If you look down on it, you should barely see any of the yellow, only the white. And if you really want to make your lemon pastry extra Natsuki-fied, this is where you'll need your blowtorch.
Well, what am I going to do with the blowtorch?
You are not going to do anything with a blowtorch, because even in this completely fictional environment, I would feel extremely uncomfortable putting a point-and-shoot combustible in your hands.
And who could blame you?
Now, what we're about to do works best if you're serving the pastry chilled, like out of the fridge or freezer. After you put on the powdered sugar, you're going to take your blowtorch and gently, carefully torch that powdered sugar so it gets a little brown and crispy and caramelized. Oh yeah, that's the fucking good stuff right there. And that's basically it. We're done. Serve and enjoy. And that'll be all for me for now. We'll sign out now before Yuri eats literally everything we baked today.
That was one time.
One time is enough. That was so many cookies.
Some of us actually have it to sustain a normal human-sized body.
God damn it, Yuri.
Well, that's all the time we have, everyone. In the meantime, I guess I've been left alone with this giant, delicious lemon pastry to, guard it, yeah. So I'm going to need you guys to step away in the mud for the, security of this pastry. We'll leave Sarah alone to protect this pastry as hard as she can. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on
Bacon with Natsuki. The Club applauds heartily for Natsuki's mod.
Another very good entry, Natsuki. I liked the continuity for the last episode. Believe it or not, I like how I was portrayed. It was lively.
I demand an appearance in the next one, if there is a next one. You and I have actually baked with each other on several occasions, after all. I feel like I'd be a good entry into this mod series.
And good time, MC, and good time.
So, did you make this recipe for us to eat today?
I sure did.
Natsuki produces a tray of her lemon pastry.
And I even made sure I'd have a blowtorch ready to finish off this bad boy.
You had this at MC's house?
Oh my gosh!
But you stay far away from it until the fighter part is over, Sayori.
And with the lemon treats safely dealt with, it's time for us to answer emails from our email bag. As always, remember that you can send us your questions at my email address, that place. And you can also request access to our Discord server by emailing there. We get a lot of emails, but we do try to answer most of them. And in any event, you'll always get a personal reply from me. So without further ado, let's bring up the first email.
Big ol' email. I'm just checking in on my favorite club and my favorite girl. By the way, thanks for letting me know. Monica kept my poem. Means a lot to me. Question for Natsuki. Can you tell me what's the easiest thing to bake in your opinion? For Yuri. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll be sure to read them both. Also, do you have a suggestion for a horror novel for beginners? I don't read much horror, but I want to get into it. For Sayori. I don't know if this has been answered yet. Maybe I forgot, but what are the names of your stuffed animals in your room? For me. Sorry I don't have a question for you, mainly because I don't know much about you, but I hope everything is going well for you and Sayori. For my angel. I'm thinking about writing another poem for you, so stay tuned for that. Also, what is your opinion on dark humor? Hope you all are well, asks Savannah.
Oh, it's an email from Savannah. The first part is for you, Natsuki.
I see. Brownies are really simple to start. Basically, you just mix everything together, dump it in a pan, and put it in the oven. And they're really forgiving. If you underbake or overbake them a little, then that's okay. And if you don't get the ingredients quite as precisely as you should, that's okay too. They'll still end up tasty chocolatey brownies. Unless you screw up really bad. Hopefully it works out for you. You're up, Yuri.
For a beginner to the genre, might I suggest a pair of vampire novels? An excellent modern one, which is half horror, half drama, is Let the Right One In by John Lindquist. But I prefer the classic vampire novel, Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you can deal with a little bit of 19th century prose, it's very engaging and fun.
Really glad neither of those were Twilight.
Me next! Ooh, so there's Mr. Cat, that MC got me, Mr. Cow, and Mr. Bird. That's it! Thanks for the question!
That's my Sayori. And don't worry, you don't always need to have a question. It's just nice to say hi sometimes.
Yeah, that'll wrap things up. I'm looking forward to your next poem. As the dark humor, I really love it. Maybe not as much as some instances of me, and definitely not as much as Sayori. But I am pretty badly addicted to horrible jokes. Thanks for the question, Savannah. Always nice to hear from you. Let's have the next question, Sayori.
Hope you all had a good summer break. I'm assuming you won't be able to get to this until after the club starts up again. So, how's the new semester been so far? I had a couple questions for you all, if you don't mind. They're for all of you, so anyone is free to answer. First, I know in the past you all said you wouldn't mind new members, but do you guys actually have a plan set for if a student asks to join? I imagine anyone joining would need to know about what you all know, unless you have some way to hide it from only them. Or are you guys going to turn anyone who asks to join away? Second, sorry if this is a weird one, but I'm curious to know. I know you probably don't have any relationship or interaction with him, but what do you all think about the man who made the original DDLC? If you've ever given Dan any thought at all. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and answering if this made it into an email session. Your friend, Justin.
Interesting questions. Well, you've sort of seen it with how we dealt with Kenzo. Although he was sort of a temporary member, I guess. But basically, yeah, we'd probably try to have official club time where we did all the literature stuff. And then secret, people who know the world is a simulation time later. It might be a little hard to get them incorporated fully into the knowledge that we have. We'd have to trust them first, a lot. I'm not sure that Kenzo, for instance, is someone we'd want to trust with that knowledge.
I trust Miss Ida, but I'm not sure I want her to know all this stuff. It would be really hard on her, probably.
Plus, we know they can't react poorly on a person who doesn't have a curveball game knowledge. Anyway, as to your other question, what we think about Dan Salvato, I have complex feelings. Obviously, I'm glad to be alive and I wouldn't be here today without him. But at the same time, I wish I had been given more happiness. I get that he's a storyteller telling a story. I just wish I had been put in a happier story, you know?
I don't really have much to add to that, other than I'm glad to be alive too, and I have him to thank.
I hope that, if your universe is also a simulated one, the people writing it are nicer to him than he was to us. Next question.
Brother Code, at your service. I'm still catching up to the episodes of Season 1 of the club meetings, but though I'd send something ahead to say a few stuff to each character, I'm saving the best character in my opinion for last. MC, so I don't know what's going on with you at the time of writing this, but I just want to say, you were awesome. Sorry if you felt like my puppet after gaining sentience and stuff. Honestly, it makes me happy that you're yourself. It's sorta good be a separate entity, though I wish I could communicate with all of you. Natsuki, how's it hanging? You've learned a lot of lessons from your friends, and in turn I learned lessons from you and your friends. So thank you for the lessons, and I thought your personality was great. Yuri, you have shown to be a good person. It shows even more when you say stuff confidently, and you always stick by your friends. You truly are a noble soul. Even if you don't agree with me, I'm sure your friends would. So Yuri, if I may suggest something. If this topic has already been brought up, I think I know how to combat your depression of it. Although, keep in mind, this is experimental and worked for me, with the common side effect of seeing things. Okay? How I dealt with most of my hallucinations, I have schizophrenia, I would make a set of good voices to combat the bad ones. If you want to simplify it, imagine your friends as your shield to guard against them, and your sword to vanquish them, or use a medium like Mr. Cow. That is my suggestion, so just to make things easier on you. I have no evidence to back this up, but it is merely a suggestion. Monica. Heart, heart, heart. I wrote a poem, not as the good one that Mr. T, remember him from the past emails. Great sounding guy. Also Mr. T, I made a pun. Anyway, I know you're working on getting to my reality, even though it's a lot of work. Know that I am trying actually to get to your reality. If I die in the process, don't cry or grieve me, it's part of the backup plan. My beliefs may make it so I got to your specific reality. So far I've tried lucid dreaming and also other processes that are legal, so I can only wait till they develop reality portals, or die and my spirit shall go to you if I have enough faith. Don't worry though, I won't hurt myself or kill myself, that would not be pleasant, nor does it have a chance to work.
Oh, a lot going on here, though. No questions yet. There's more to this one. Oh, okay.
Thanks for calling me awesome. It's okay that you puppeted me around, man. Happens to all you guys. Thanks for the good wishes.
And thanks for me too. I'm glad my life is so educational for you. I am very wise.
I do try to be a noble soul. Still working on the confidence thing, though. Thank you in any event. I know you guys experience my negative thoughts as voices, but for me it's just my thoughts. I don't like hear exterior voices when I'm depressed. It's just me, it's all just me. But fortunately, I have some new coping strategies that my doctor gave me. So hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of myself a little better these days. Yes, please don't die in an effort to get into this video game. I don't really think that's possible, no matter how much faith you might have. But I am flattered that it would try so hard. Next part of the email.
Monica, with eyes like emeralds, for her I shall be a herald. Of her sweet voice, of this I make a choice. Life is boring, but she brightens up my day. Monica, you are beautiful in all kinds of ways.
Oh, it's the poem you wrote. It is tough to find rhymes for emerald, isn't it? Herald is a good choice, though. It's a very sweet poem, thank you.
As for questions, I wanted to ask if you anime lovers have seen Overlord the anime.
No.
No.
I know you're probably expecting me to have seen it, but basically I watched like an episode and a half, and that's as far as I got. I didn't hate it, it just really wasn't my thing. Kind of like a darker, more gritty Sword Art Online, I guess. Would grittier be the word? No offense to Overlord.
And that's it for that email. Thanks, Brother Code. Let's move on.
Hope all is well with everyone. I'm actually here to thank all of you for getting me through some rough times, but Yuri in particular. A little backstory, so sorry for the long read. Yuri, I realized early on that I related, most to you as far as shyness is concerned. Writing this email took every ounce of courage I had. There's a mobile game that I play, Marvel Strike Force. I'm a huge Marvel nerd. I'm part of an alliance only because it's a requirement for this game. Most of my mates chat with each other daily, but I'm the one who follows orders and never says a word. It's a little embarrassing to admit, but I once stopped before I beat the final boss in a raid. I know I could beat it, I just didn't want to thank people for congratulating me. Not sure you can relate, Yuri, but hopefully you can giggle at my timidness. Seeing you step out of your comfort zone helped me do the same, and now I actually made friends at work. Still not taking on that boss, though.
Well, to be quite frank, I have no idea what you're talking about with most of this. But I gather that, at the very least, you were able to step beyond your usual boundaries in a way that was pleasing to you. And that I was at least in part your inspiration for doing so. That makes me very happy. Thanks for telling the story.
Anyway, here's my first question for the whole club. Monica, you did it! You finally broke out of the game, but... Wait, you and the gang ended up in... the Marvel Universe? Well, since you're there, what are your power, codenames, and who would you like to team with? Sorry, my Marvel nerd side likes to slip out from time to time.
Ah, there's more. I'm not sure what to answer to your first three questions, but I definitely want to team up with Black Widow. She has it together. I also don't really have an answer as to my fictional persona, but I would want to team up with Iron Man. Because he's Iron Man. I would be called Flowing River, and I would have the power to control people's emotions, and me and the Hulk would be best friends because I could help him feel angry, or not wherever he wanted to be. Words, yeah, or not whenever he wanted. There you go.
Very specific.
Yeah!
Well, I'm not very imaginative, so I don't have something like a codename. But I'd love to have a power related to flight. I know that's not exactly a super rare power in the Marvel Universe, but it's just something I'm into. I'd want to hang out with Thor, though. He seems cool.
My code name would be Bmole, and I would be an expert on all things digging. I don't even have any knowledge or interest in digging in the real world. I just know that that's what I'd be in the Marvel Universe. And I'd be on a team with Ant-Man for obvious reasons. Dude's a pro.
My second question is for everyone but Monica. Is it funny to any of you when she talks to the player/audience? Because I keep imagining Monica having deep philosophical conversations and flirting with a wall.
Yes. Monica does occasionally do and say things that seem strange until you realize she's interacting with you. We have mostly gotten used to it, though. I must say, it makes a lot more sense once one has a chance to experience your presence for themselves. Mostly, I find Monica's behavior quite understandable.
It is kind of weird, but yeah. I agree with Yuri. I barely even notice it anymore.
Same.
The thing that always gets me is not when Monica says something or does something. It's when she's suddenly very still and quiet. And you can tell it's because she knows you're there. She just gets all distracted and stares off into the distance. It's a little eerie. But when she does talk and flirt with a wall, it's pretty funny, yeah.
I mean, you guys are all basically talking to a wall right now, aren't you? My final question is for Monica. I lied. There is no question. I just wanted to tell you I loved you. Love you, Monica. Creed.
Aw. Thank you, Creed. I love you too. Thanks for the email.
Nodsky. I think if you were to go across the multiverse, I have a feeling you'd go great with future Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. Considering the parental issues you guys share, it would be nice to share that with someone else. Also, having a quarter Saiyan hybrid child would be pretty freaking awesome. Monica, do not fret too much about being trapped in a place beyond your control. I think you might end up acting like Father from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and have a bad case of Droff in the Flask Syndrome, meaning once to become God because you fear the prospect of being under the control of a higher being. Yuri, I know you read horror and stuff, but how would you feel about the thought that we are in an infinitely defined multiverse and there is a version of you guys who are real people living normal lives? Is that a scary thought or a more fundamental question on the constant state of the human condition? For the best girl, Sayori, I have done a bit of research on the effects of isolation on the human mind. Is it possible that your depression either exists because or is an outgrowth of the constant feelings of loneliness affects the human brain, which is a real phenomenon? I was just curious about how you felt about my conjecture regarding your issues. Lastly, MC. Suppose Sayori was dying from a fatal wound, and there was a Sith Lord promising to save her. He can absolutely beyond a shadow of doubt save her, but you must pledge your life and allegiance to the Sith. Would you do it? Sayori, how would you feel? I know this is a loaded question. Thanks. Guys, have fun, but not too much fun.
Another multi-parter. That's an interesting thought, emailer. I never thought about it, but I guess we have a few things in common, huh? I'm actually not sure we'd get along very well, though. Dude's super serious. He'd probably end up finding me pretty annoying. But if not, then yeah, it would be fun. I admire the guy.
I am not at all sure what's going on in this fictional universe. But yes, that's definitely part of why I'm so obsessed. I like being in control. And not being in control just makes me want to be more in control. So I guess you're right. Oh, another horror question, sort of. I mean, that question isn't scary at all, because it's essentially true. Right here, we are real people living normal lives. I'm not sure being simulated matters that much. Do you think it does? Would you feel scared if you knew you were simulated, but you still had all the same experiences? For me, it was just very much life as normal with a few interesting exceptions, really. Thought-provoking question, though. Well, I'm not sure what you mean, but I don't think my depression is because of anything to do with loneliness. I've never really been lonely. I've been surrounded with friends and people who care about me my whole life. And now I even have a really sweet boyfriend who is also my best friend. But none of that really did anything to my depression or affected it in any way. Really, I think it's just genetic. Just a sucky thing that I was born unlucky on. But that's okay, I'll get through it.
A Sith Lord?
Enough of your memeing. This is my question. Yeah, I'd probably get all evil to save Sayori if it really was the only way to do it. And I wasn't being a stupid, gullible idiot like Anakin Skywalker. Those movies weren't very good, were they?
Oh, but I wouldn't want you to be evil. That would make me sad.
Don't worry, Bun. It would all just be a long con to save you. I would come back to the light as soon as I knew you were safe.
Yay! Thanks for the question, friends. We'll try to avoid an overdose of fun. Alright, time for one more email, I think.